It's a rainy Mumbai right now, and I think people are struggling to get back home on the various modes of transport. And some of you would be connected while you're trying to get home as well. But thank you for being with us. As you know, BMA is now in the process of trying to bring to you the best in management lessons from across the world. And our Friday Fundamentals program focuses on addressing issues that are absolutely core, relevant, and essential for survival and thriving in the today's VUCA world. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing to all of you our eminent guest who comes to India pretty often, all the way from up north cold region of British Columbia, where he normally spends time engaging with management students in the University of Fraser Valley. Dr. Mike Ivanof is a person who has more than 3 decades of experience across several countries spanning 4 continents. A widely traveled, a widely experienced, and a widely culturally exposed person. Mike's prime focus is on corporate social responsibility and enhancing corporate ability to tackle problems in the new world. Mike is not only a practitioner of the modern contemporary business practices that all of us learn across management institutes, but he also has a innovative and creative bent to his personality that puts him apart in terms of trying to do the real thing and inspire others to follow suit. Mike is the founder of globalbox.world, a platform which he has created to make transactions seamless across the world and in a way that is truly local. Local for local, global for global, and global and local both for those who have the appetite. His project I have had the opportunity of seeing yesterday, and I see that there is an overwhelming response that is happening and it is growing exponentially. Mike, congratulations for this venture. I think you are going to give many competitors a run for their money, and you're going to make many of them scramble for trying to find ways and means to come up with solutions to match yours. I think all of you will be keen to listen to Mike, and therefore, without spending an additional moment talking about him, I would request Mike to take on from here, talk about himself, his philosophy, his projects, his way of making things happen, and educate all of us on the various perspectives. So, over to you, Mike. Thank you so much for accepting this invitation of BMA and being a part of our session today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yadav. It's truly a pleasure and a great honor to be part of this seminar series that BMI is offering. I have to say, first and foremost, I love India. I can speak quite a bit of Hindi. I can say the most important things, cello, tika, and I can also bargain. I can bargain in the marketplace. 100 rupees, 200 rupees. So I'm always very good at bargaining in the marketplace. So it's I've been in Mumbai several times, many times actually, and it's a pleasure always for me to be in India. It's a pleasure to be with all of you, and I thank you for the opportunity. And I hope what we're going to share today, and I would like to have some interaction at the end of the session. I hope what I'm going to share with you is going to be relevant. Is going to be relevant for each and every one of us because we are all operating in a, I would say, in a new paradigm in a world that has been transformational over the last couple of decades in particular. So I have a presentation on my take on how do we build organizations which are going to be fit for the 21st century, for the challenges that the 21st century is bringing um, to these environments. So with your permission, I would like to share my screen and I would like to share the presentation. And then hopefully, as the presentation moves on, hopefully after the presentation, we're going to have a bit of an opportunity to actually have some discussions with all the people who are online. So with your permission, I'm going to share my screen and I'll bring the I'll bring the presentation on. All right. May I ask you if you can all see this presentation, Building the 21st Century Corporate Workforce?
Yes, we can.
Very good. Thank you so much. Good. So I'm going to start by actually talking about how do we model the high performance organization. Of course, in not just in India, but all over the world, most organizations have different sets of resources, everything from human resources to organizational resources, technological resources. And the question becomes, how do we maximize the impact of these resources in order to enhance our performance with the company or the organization that we work with? And I would like to start by kind of doing a bit of a match between Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, where he starts with the basic needs at the very front end, and then he moves on into needs for self-esteem and all the way to the top where we talk about self-actualization. Here I'm talking about human capabilities, and at the very bottom we have obedience. Many organizations expect from their employees to behave in an obedient way. But I think we need to take our employees and we need to move them forward towards diligence, towards developing their intellect, and even further towards them taking initiative and enabling and empowering them. Enabling simply means to give them the appropriate tools, not just tools, because tools are superficial. And I always like to give a bit of an example. If we ask someone to nail a nail in the wall and we give them a pair of scissors, we're not doing a proper job. In other words, we need to give them a hammer. If we ask someone to cut an intricate piece out of a piece of paper and we give them a hammer, obviously we gave them a tool, but the tool is not the appropriate one for the job. So there has to be alignment between what we're asking our people to do and what tools we're providing them with. Beyond initiative, we're then kind of empowering and enabling the people to go creative. And when we empower, we give them the authority to actually make and to implement decisions. So we need to push people in our organizations on this continuum and all the way towards creating this passionate approach. And you will see that I'm going to finish this entire presentation with a framework of 5 Ps, which I think and I believe is going to lead to organizational performance. And passion is definitely one of these 5 Ps. The current global environments are characterized by this VUCA acronym. VUCA stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. We all understand that there are many, many issues, economic sanctions by the United States against China, against Russia. Sometimes the United States is pushing all sort of different things. So there is a lot of uncertainty in the global environment. We're seeing, different economic turmoil, even wars, as we are seeing in Eastern Europe. And we need to understand, how do we prepare our organization in order to be able to navigate these, very tumultuous waters of these global environments. And through that, in this preparation, we need to I would say, as an organization, we need to acquire resources, which we define as VRIN. And VRIN stands for valuable, rare, inimitable, and non-substitutable. Of course, every organization has some type of resources. The question is, how do we morph? How do we transform these resources into valuable resources? And we can do that by taking our competencies from just mere competencies, which means what do we know to do, to core competencies, which means what do we know to do better than someone else, and then to distinct competencies, which means what do we know to do better than everyone else. And this can be accomplished through education, through training, through getting people in our organizations to constantly develop themselves. I have inserted here a very interesting acronym, KYC to the power of 3. And I would like to maybe ask some of our members, maybe to jump in and if anyone knows what KYC normally stands for, I would appreciate it if someone could jump in and give me a bit of an answer. What do you think KYC stands for?
May I?
Please.
Know your customer.
Very good. Excellent. But you see here, I put KYC to the power of 3, and this is a very important concept in strategic management. And why is to the power of 3? Because now we need to know not just our customer, but we need to know our company. And most importantly, we need to know our competition. So know your customer, know your company, know your competition. And if I was to do a poll, and initially I had a poll figured out for this, but I think it's better if we don't go through it. But in your mind, just in your go ahead. Somebody
Probably it's a mistake. No.
Okay, no problem. So what I would like to do for all the participants, I would like in your mind to settle your mind on which KYC do you feel is the most important one. So we have know your customer, know your company, and know your competition. So settle your mind on which one do you think is the most important. Normally, as I said, I would do a poll just to see, how many people would say, okay, know your customer is the most important, know your company, and know your competition. And what I can assure you is that most of you would probably think that the most important KYC is know your customer. Now, I can assure you, after teaching 20 years of strategic management, that is incorrect. The correct...
Can I just suggest? I feel it is company, knowing your company, which means knowing your strengths and weaknesses.
Very good answer, but it's the wrong answer. And I'm gonna explain why. Actually, the correct answer is know your competition. Let me explain why. If we know the customer, what type of product or service are we going to deliver? Where we're going to deliver a product or a service which satisfy the needs, the wants, and maybe even the wishes or the desires of the customer, correct? So what happens if our competition knows us better than we know ourselves? What type of product or service is the competition going to come up with? Well, they're going to come up with a similar product, but in a cheaper price, or with more product features, more product attributes, more product functionalities. So they will beat us to the punch. They will outrun, outperform. They would do things better than us. So the problem is not to know the customer. I mean, yes, we have to know the customer, no question about it. I'm not saying it's not important not to know your customer or not to know your strengths and weaknesses on your company, but you know those intrinsically, willy-nilly, you know it. You know what your company is all about. But knowing the competition better than you know yourself is going to allow you to outperform, to outrun your competition. It's going to allow you to come up with products and services which are going to be better, cheaper, more product features, more product attributes, more product functionalities, better design, better branding, and that's going to allow us to actually outperform the competition. So I can assure you, I don't want to go into a lot of details, but I can assure you, after studying strategic management for 20 years, I came to the conclusion, and there's no doubt about it, that knowing your competition is by far the most important aspect of this entire KYC to the power of 3 thing. Good. I'm gonna throw an interesting concept of strategic agility. And a lot of companies need to develop this strategic agility. Agility basically talks about nimbleness. It talks about the ability to turn on a dime, right? To shift your goals, and maybe not goals, but to shift your strategy, pretty much on a dime. And in strategic agility, we have 3 key components. Number 1 is strategic flexibility. And what this flexibility talks about is how do we move seamlessly and iteratively between strategy definition and strategy implementation in a seamless manner. What does it mean? We come up with some sort of a strategy as a company, as a corporation, we come up with a strategy, and then we go to implementation. And then we find some sort of a problem. We find some sort of an obstacle in front of us. And then many people get stuck. They don't know how to react. Well, what we need to do is we need to go take a step back, redefine the strategy, and then go back to implementation. I'm always saying that in strategy, and every corporation should behave like water. And people are going to say, like what? Like water. Why? Think about this. What does water do when it finds some sort of an obstacle in front of it? Well, it goes around it. It goes above it. If there's a dam, it finds some sort of a crack and it goes through it. And if it's a big dam, it builds pressure, and over 20, 30, over 100 years, is going to take that dam out. So in other words, you got to find a way. And that way is called the PLR. PLR means the path of least resistance. So we need to try to find out some sort of a strategic pathway, which is going to allow us to actually pursue our goals and objectives and to reach those goals and objectives ahead of the competition. The second component of strategic agility, and this is again part of how organizations should compete in these environments, is resource fluidity. And resource fluidity talks about constant allocation and reallocation of all available resources to wherever they will make the most meaningful, positive impact in the organization. Many companies today have resources which are sitting idle. Either they're sitting idle or they're not performing to the maximum. So we need to kind of think about where do we constantly allocate those resources in order to actually gain and retain that long-term competitive advantage. And the last thing is constantly scanning the opportunity horizon. This opportunity horizon, a lot of the organizations today are bogged down into organizational inertia, into executing the plan. But what these companies are not doing, they're not looking forward to the future. We need to understand what the future holds. Why? Because the future is going to be the one that's going to determine our success, not what is happening today. What's happening today, there's an old adage which says today is history, tomorrow is mystery. So we need to look into the future. Nobody has a crystal ball, but by analyzing the patterns, by analyzing what's happening in the world, by understanding emerging technologies, by understanding, and here I can give you the example of Industry 4.0, which talks about automation, robotics, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, additive manufacturing, 3D printed products, biotechnologies. So there's a lot of stuff that's emerging right now. And then the question is, how do we not just adapt, but how do we embrace these technologies, and how do we become the champions of change? By constantly scanning this opportunity horizon, by constantly looking into the future. And I presume most of the people who are attending this meeting today are management gurus in their own right? You are all decision makers in your own right. And I can tell you this, I do a lot of discussions with a lot of presidents and vice presidents and high-end decision makers in organizations. I'm telling them 20 to 40% of your time should be spent outside your organization. Outside your organization. Why? Because the future doesn't happen inside your organization. The future happens outside your organization. What am I talking about? I'm talking about trade fairs. I'm talking about meeting with competitors. I'm talking about meeting with other people in other industries. I'm talking about constantly being informed about what's happening in the world. Attend seminars, attend, like this one, and hopefully I'm going to be, I'm going to be able to add a little bit of value, hopefully, to each and every one of us in this with this presentation. Good. Strategic agility is also defined by having high aspirations. I always like to, some of us may be familiar with the term SMART goals. SMART, specific, measurable, attainable. The R is a very interesting one. Many people think that R stands for realistic. It doesn't. It stands for relevant. Realistic goals are very easy to attain and to accomplish. It's very easy to jump, 10 centimeters. That's a realistic goal. If I was to say, okay, jump 10 meters, you will say, are you crazy? I cannot do that. But in striving to jump 10 meters, you are going to strive more than the 10 centimeters, which was a realistic goal. So always have stretch goals in mind, high aspirations, and always strive to accomplish it. Even when you know that you're not going to be able to accomplish it, strive to accomplish it, because you're gonna get more done than if you were to get into a realistic goal. So specific goals, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time frame oriented. You got to put some sort of a timeline on the goals. The organization itself has to be adaptable. We have to kind of constantly adapt to emerging technologies. You got to be innovative. And here it's an interesting thing. Many people think innovation is some coming up with something new, coming up with a new solution to an old problem. I teach management of innovation. I've been teaching it for 22 years, and I can assure you that innovation is actually something different. Innovation is the transformation of knowledge into money. In other words, is how do we create an economic benefit out of an idea or a concept? How do we transform a concept into a commercially viable product? That's what innovation is. Innovation is basically the transformation of knowledge into money. Innovation goes in reverse to research. Research is the transformation of money into knowledge. So we need to create these organizations which are innovative, which allows every single stakeholder in the organization, primarily internal stakeholders, to contribute, to make a meaningful contribution to the development of new ideas, the development of new products. Get everybody in the organization to contribute. Encourage them, enable them, give them the power, and give them some compensation. If someone comes up with a great idea, it doesn't matter if the idea comes from the CEO or if it comes from the frontline worker. Give them some benefit out of that. So that's why I'm saying here, make innovation everybody's job every day, all the time. Get people to become more and more innovative. Obviously, some more attributes that would define strategic agility: nimbleness, openness, flexibility in approach, elasticity in decision-making processes. In other words, don't get stuck. Don't get stuck in the idea that it's either, and I'm talking about, the decision makers in organizations, it's either my way or the highway, because you might not have all the correct answers. I don't have all the correct answers. Dr. Yadav doesn't have all the correct answers. Nobody has all the correct answers. We know a little bit on what we're doing. We know bits and pieces. Different people would know different things. So we need to enable and empower these people to actually contribute and make a meaningful contribution to the development of the company. Another interesting concept is this concept of meritocracy. And I'm quite sure that most of you are familiar with meritocracy, which is actually at the other end of the spectrum of what is very prevalent in the Indian culture. The Indian culture is very keen on nepotism. If the son of the president or the daughter of the president or the nephew or the niece of the president is in the company, then they will get some better positions, they will get advancements, they will get bonuses, they will get whatever. But meritocracy talks about giving those perks to those who are actually contributing, those who are making that meaningful contribution, those who have dedicated their careers and their lives. So meritocracy talks about identifying the talent in the organization, which does make that effort and does bring the value to the organization, and give those people, regardless whether they're your son, daughter, niece, nephew, whatever, give them the benefit of the perk, the promotion, or whatever it is. So rewarding competence is definitely an important aspect of this thing. Whoever brings competence, when people demonstrate passion, commitment, drive towards the organization, I think that we need to compensate and compensate those, and we need to acknowledge them. Try to stay away from these allocational rigidities, right? So we also have inertia embedded in the organization. We all have rules and guidelines and regulations, and we have all heard, oh, we've been doing this for the last 50 years this way. Who are you to come to us to tell us to change things? You have a young kid who's coming and saying, oh, maybe we should do this thing this way because I learned it in my MBA class from Dr. Mike Ivanof. He told us that we should be doing things differently. And then you're going to say, like, who is Mike Ivanof, right? Who's going to tell us how to change things? Well, be open-minded, right? So build organizations that are fit for the future, build organizations that are fit for the human beings, and then challenge management dogmas. We have to be aware of the fact that I presume that we have a lot of people here who are over 40 years of age. Maybe hopefully we have some younger people as well. But in general, the older we get, the more entrenched we become in the it's either my way or the highway. So we need to get out of these management dogmas. We need to be open-minded. We need to be listening twice as much as. By the way, I don't know if you guys, if everybody has noticed, but we have 2 eyes and 2 ears and only 1 mouth. So we need to be looking twice as much, and we need to hear twice as much. Regardless whether you're the CEO or the CFO or whoever you are, we need to look and listen twice as much that we speak. So it's an important aspect of this entire thing. Breaking down, previous patterns of production and consumption, trying to kind of move on from previous ways of doing business. Now, if your business is doing okay, of course, you don't want to reinvent the wheel just for the sake of reinventing the wheel, but you might want to fine-tune the wheel. Many of us have been riding bikes, and you know that sometimes you have to kind of tighten up some of the spokes in the wheel. You got to fine tune it, because then maybe we put a little bit of grease, to get the wheel to move better and faster, and so on and so forth. Becoming a bit of a contrarian. So try to, excuse me for a second. Try to move away from the beaten path. In other words, try to be a bit of a pioneer. Try to be a trailblazer. Usually, roads that have been traveled by people lead to very well-known outcomes. Nothing wrong with that. But if you really want to be a transformational leader, if you want to transform the world, then you have to kind of travel a bit of a less beaten path. You have to become a trailblazer. So be a bit of a contrarian, learn from the fringe. The fringe is basically everything that's not mainstream today. So everything that's not mainstream is on the periphery, because the future happens on the fringe. The future happens outside. Microsoft, Hewlett Packard, all these companies, Google, they all started in a garage. They didn't start in a mainstream company. They all started in some garage somewhere. And Apple the same way, and Amazon the same way. So the future happens in someone's garage right now. And I would like to thank Dr. Yadav for mentioning the fact that I'm actually building a platform which is called globalbox.world, which is actually meant to become a huge rival to Amazon. No, nobody else but Amazon itself. And this is happening in my own garage, so to speak, right, in my own office. So, and you probably never heard of this company before, but I can assure you that 20 years from now, this is going to be just as big as Amazon is today. So hopefully, try to kind of learn from the fringe. How do we do that? By being outside our companies 20 to 40% of our time, meeting with people, going to conferences, going to trade fairs. Yeah, as organization leaders, we need to kind of use that. I also like to kind of propose that every organization creates a knowledge management framework. What knowledge management frameworks do is they give you the ability to capture, to structure, and to disseminate the information. If you think about it, the largest knowledge management platform in the world is Google, because Google captures all the information, then it does dynamic structuring as someone is typing in, and then it disseminates that information and it prioritizes it based on the user's input. Similarly, the second largest knowledge management platform in the world is YouTube, because YouTube has a lot of information. Every organization needs to develop a knowledge management framework based on their intranet, where they capture all the knowledge, all the information from within the company, and then try to disseminate that to every single stakeholder in the organization. I'm just going to give you an example. Maybe you have someone that struggled to find a solution to a problem. And this person, for the sake of the argument, let's say this person struggled for 1 week to find a solution to a problem. Well, maybe in a different part of your organization, 6 months later, someone encounters a similar problem, where rather than this person spending another week on finding the solution, wouldn't it be wonderful to type into some sort of a Q&A type of thing, right? Question and answer box. Okay, I have this problem. This is the issue. Is there anyone that has encountered this problem before? And maybe the system is going to say, yeah, Jasprit Singh, in Punjab had the same issue in Chandigarh 6 months ago. He, found this solution. Would this solution work for you? And maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But at least it gives you an ability to actually find a solution to a problem in a more expeditious manner. Look at social media. The social media nowadays is becoming quite ubiquitous. Everybody is engaged in social media. Many people are actually kind of thinking, and I'm talking about positive and negative impacts, because the negative impact, I'm talking about people spending time on Facebook, people spending time on, different things while they're at work. You are paying them and they are still spending time on checking their emails, talking and chatting with friends, WhatsApp and Telegram and you name it. So we need to look at that. And how do we kind of try to mitigate the negative impact in the company? Look at your management organizational architecture, see if it needs to be flattened down. We have two types of organizations. The traditional organization is the pyramid one. The traditional one is the pyramid one, with the CEO at the top and the frontline workers at the bottom and so on and so forth. And we have the 21st century management organization, which is the flat, the pancake, or for my good friends from Punjab, the paranta type organization. I will always love aloo paranta and gobi paranta. Every time I come to India, I get to gain like a couple of kilos by eating parantas. These flat organizations, they basically talk about a collaborative structure. So in the flat organization, it's a collaborative structure. In the traditional one, you have the decision making at the top and the implementation towards the bottom. So you need to kind of determine which organizational structure works best for your particular company, right? So try to identify which organizational structure is best aligned with what you have. I'm gonna jump to this employees first, customers second, and most of you are gonna say, Dr. Yadav, why did you bring this Mike Ivanof guy to tell us that we got to put our employees first rather than customers first? Because the traditional, mindset is the customer is king. Well, let me tell you this: if you don't take care of your employees are not going to take care of your customers, because the first interface between your company and the customer is not you, the CEO, but is the employee, which is in the salesperson, so every organization has to pay a lot of attention to their employees And then you take care of your employees, and your employees are going to take care of your customers. So I'm not saying forget about a customer. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is take care of your employees, and then your employees are going to make you proud, and they will represent you very, very well in front of your customers. I'm just talking a little bit about change. Change is seditious, change is unrelenting, change is always gonna be there. We have that old adage which says that change is the only constant thing in life, right? So we need to learn how not to just adapt to change, but how to implement change. We need to learn how to become champions of change. I like to kind of give a bit of an example, saying that change is like a train, and you have three options. Either you are left in the station, the train is gone, in which case you become a dinosaur and you're going to go extinct as a company and even as a human being. Second is you are on board of the train, in which case you are adapting to change, and that's okay. But the third, if you want to become a champion of change, you need to run in front of the train, because otherwise the train is going to kick you in the back. So you need to run faster than the train itself. So make sure that you always have this open-minded attitude, always learn, always listen to other people, because this hyper competition environment is pushing us to become more adaptive, more innovative all the time. Yeah. Determining your strengths, of course, it's part of the knowing your company, performance, removing barriers. I'm talking about removing barriers I'm talking about communication barriers inside the organization. Try not to belittle, in a sense. Try not to belittle someone who's at the forefront of the organization, saying that, oh, that person doesn't have an idea, doesn't have a clue about what's happening. Maybe they know better than you as a decision maker, what these issues are. So remove barriers. I'm just going to share this with you. I went to Chicago once and also to Detroit, who saw one of the big automakers. And I can tell you, in one of the towers, you couldn't even reach the level. You couldn't even reach the level where the CEO was located. To push the button, there was no button. It was just a fingerprint thing. So it was only the CEO's fingerprint and the secretary's fingerprint that could go to that level, which means that the CEO lives in an ivory tower. The CEO is entirely detached from everybody else. Don't get into this mentality where you think that, okay, we know better than everybody else in the company. Everybody in the company has to be part of the decision-making process. It's got to be a consultative process, because more eyes makes for better oversight. So I think it's important to do that. Workforce planning, talent acquisition, engagement, development, deployment, leadership, getting everybody in the company to actually go through this educational process, go through training, and I have a bit of an issue. Many organizations, when they hire for top management, they hire from inside, and that's a problem. And I'm going to tell you why it's a problem. Because people, when you hire a CEO, I think that the CEO should always, or most of the time, should be hired from outside. Because people from within the company, they come with a lot of political baggage attached to it. They already have some, affinities inside the company. They already have these little groups kind of, attached to. And I think when you hire for entry-level positions and top-level positions, you should hire from outside. Anything inside, in the middle, should be promotion from inside the company. So that's part of this leadership preparedness and training processes. How do we move into this 21st century paradigm? Integrated systems with all functions optimized. We need to kind of try to avoid wastage of time, avoid wastage of money, try to avoid those kind of things. Look at how do you develop and deploy the vital resources. By the way, when you talk about strategy and strategic management, strategy is actually about three things. Strategy is about identification, employment, and deployment of resources. This is what strategy is. So the question then becomes, how do we take these vital resources and we deploy them for maximum performance in the company? And again, stay away from nepotism, stay away from the fact that, oh, this person is a good friend of mine, I'm going to allocate them so many resources. Allocate resources to wherever they make the most meaningful, positive impact in the organization. Look at the research and industry leading best practices. Do benchmarking, and when you benchmark, you always try to benchmark against the best in the industry. Try to find out who's the best, do a gap analysis. What is it that is in between them and us? And then try to find some sort of a solution which is going to bridge this gap. If you are the industry leader, then try to expand this gap. Try to find, do more of what you're doing. But if you are just, below the industry leader, then try to find what's going to close that gap. High performance, high achievement, talk about compensation, get people to be motivated, get people to become intrinsically motivated. Not just this extrinsic motivation, not just people to be motivated by money and promotions and whatever, time off, and get people to be motivated by the meaningfulness of their jobs, by their commitment, by their drive, by their passion. So get people to, hire people which are going to make your organization proud. Talking about engagement and retaining of key performance, create this environment where decision-making processes are based on everybody's input, build capacity, build competence, shift from the term human resources to human capital pool. Most of us are very familiar with this term of human resources, but people are saying now, hey, wait a second, we're not just commodities like coal or oil or whatever. We are human capital, right? So treat that as capital. And remember that the human in your organization is by far the most important resource that you have. Not financial resources, not technological resources, not your buildings, not your intellectual property. None of those resources are as important as your people. So the people have to be treated well, and then your people are going to take your company to unforeseen heights. That's my opinion. Do a proper planning process, right? Talent acquisition. Try to bring in people that would do their best for your company. Look into development, look into pushing them into leadership as well. Another important point is every traditional organization is segmented in silos and in slabs. Silos are this vertical, segmentation. This is usually departmental segmentation, silos. And the slabs are horizontal. These are hierarchical segmentations. So try to not to eliminate them, but try to minimize the bureaucracy inside the organization. Try to kind of flatten down the organization. Try to remove these barriers. Get people to work with each other. Do cross-functional teams. Get people to collaborate and to communicate across different teams. Yeah. Think differently, act differently. Try to think different. It was the late Steve Jobs who said, we need to think different. And I can tell you, if you think the same way as everybody else, it simply means that you are following the herd. And when you follow the herd, usually you step in what the herd left behind. I don't want to make it too graphic, but if you can imagine what the herd lives behind, usually when you follow the herd, you step in what the herd left behind. And I think that would be sufficient to force you not to follow the herd, but to be ahead of everybody else. So think different, act different. Yeah. One thing here, employee referral systems. Give people the ability to bring you referrals, to recommend other people in your organization there. Look at talent management practices. Look at talent management life cycles. How people come and people go. New people are going to come in. Some people are gonna retire. Some people move to some other companies. Sometimes they move to our competitor, and that's a very bad thing. I mean, we may want to poach, talent from our competitor, but we want to prevent our people from going to competitor. Most of you are familiar with a company called Flipkart, yeah? And Flipkart was launched by two very smart people. I think one from Chandigarh, and if I don't make a mistake, the other one was from Mumbai. Am I making a mistake? Bini Bansal and Sachin Bansal. I'm pretty sure those were. But think about where these people came from. Where did they come from? They came from Amazon. They used to work with Amazon. So if Amazon was to give them, let's say, to make them, I don't know, vice president of this or vice president of the other thing or some very important thing, and even more so to give them maybe even shares in the company to make them not just stakeholders, but shareholders in the company, maybe these two guys would have contributed to the development of Amazon. Instead, what did they do? They went across the street, they created Flipkart, and they became the main competitor for Amazon. So think about how do you kind of take this story, and how do you prevent your people from launching a new Flipkart, so to speak, against your own Amazon type company? Yeah, good. Talent metrics that matter, things that KPIs, key performance indicators, look into that. Accessing or assessing rather key competencies of top performance. See exactly who's your top performers, and try to kind of encourage and give them some more benefits. See how you can actually promote and how can you bring new I would say new to revitalize new energy in your company. Develop innovative organization learning strategies, get people to training stuff, right? Training sessions, get them to maximize their potential. Yeah. Coaching and training for maximum performance, retaining key organizational knowledge. This knowledge has to be embedded in that knowledge management platform that I spoke about. And most companies do have their own intranets, and you have to kind of develop this knowledge management platforms. Engagement, alignment. Alignment is probably the most important word that for the last 22 years, this was one word. I told my students, if you retain only one word from everything I say within 13 weeks of classes in one course, the word alignment should be it, because everything has to be aligned. Alignment in terms of the channels of distribution of your products. You can never sell, by the way, you have a company such as Walmart, which has millions of customers, but nobody goes to Walmart to buy a Rolls Royce. Nobody goes to Walmart to buy a Rolex watch. So the alignment of your product with the distribution channel, the alignment of your people in your company, get people to do exactly what they love doing. Don't slot people into positions where they don't feel comfortable. Alignment is always extremely important. Retain talent through promotions, retain talent through making them stakeholders, shareholders, maybe. If they're high impact people, retain them by giving them shares in the company. Yeah. Growing knowledge experts, be open to workforce automation systems. Nowadays, we have a lot of workforce automation. We have a lot of ALPs. ALPs simply mean alternative labor processes, automation, robotics. Be open-minded to that sort of thing. I know labor in India is still very cost-effective, but we have a lot of automation and a lot of robots which are now replacing the human beings, and they may become even more cost-effective than the labor force in India. Give me another 5-7 minutes, and then I will wrap it up, and we can go into some discussions. Be aware of gaps in degree of skills. Here is a question, right? Should we grow organically? In other words, should we grow through through hiring people and developing people, or should we go through M&As, mergers and acquisitions? That's a strategic question that each and every one of us as a decision maker in the company should ask ourselves And if you have the resources, if the industry in which you operate, if the barriers to entry are very high, then you are better off doing M&As, mergers and acquisitions, because you're better off just acquiring one of the competitors or somebody else. If the barriers to entry are low, then you should grow organically. Then you define your strategies. Your employees, are they average, below average, above average, high pose, high impact positions? See exactly who you have and see exactly what you want to develop, who you want to develop, and put them in positions where they feel comfortable. Yeah. Look at influencers. It's a big thing. There are all sort of clusters in every organizational clusters, little churches, I call them, where people kind of congregate towards some sort of an influencer and try to make sure that those who could be influencers, they influence and they make a positive impact, not a negative one. So try to kind of look into that. Look into MCPs, mission critical positions. These are positions which would make a significant impact in the company, and make sure that people who are in those mission critical positions are the ones that should be there. They're the ones who are going to make your organization or break it, right? So make sure that those people are aligned with that type of position. Outsourcing, offshoring, automation, these are things that you should take into consideration if that's going to reduce your cost structure. That's something that you want to kind of think in regards to your own respective organization. I talked about ALPs, alternative labor processes, labor automation, robotics, and things like that. I think that's something that each and every one of us should take into consideration and make sure that we develop organizational structures which would enhance our overall competitiveness. Dedication, passion, things like that. Shifting the paradigm from being reactive to being proactive. In other words, doing more thinking about alternative scenario, planning, trying to think, okay, if the competition is going to do this, then what's going to be our response? But if the competition is going to do the other thing, then what's going to be our response? So do scenario planning analysis, right? Look into that. What else? Revenue, strategic objectives. Of course, we talked about long-term objectives, and you gotta now think about this. The goals and the objectives, they can change over time, but what shouldn't change and what should remain as a pillar is the organizational not the goals, but the tenets of on which the organization has been built, right? The principles, those principles, the core principles that the organization has been built on, those shouldn't change ever. The goals and the objectives could change, but the main principles on which the organization was built, those should not change. Analyze, crystallize, synthesize information, look at the attrition. Everything has to be data driven nowadays. Of course, we have a lot of data which is our disposal. Just a couple more slides, 30 seconds, and I'll wrap it up. Think about this. If the price to earnings ratio is 10 to 1, then $1 million in generating extra revenue equals $10 million in shareholder value. And I don't know how many of the people who are here or people who are listening to us are working in publicly traded companies, but the key thing for us as a publicly traded company should be shareholder value. And final slide, the framework of 5 Ps, which I think leads to organizational performance. Number one, by far the most important, is planning, because failing to plan equals planning to fail. Failing to plan equals planning to fail. So planning, people, the appropriate people in place in different positions. We have to have a process. In other words, we have to have a framework, which is going to allow us to kind of perform what we are looking to do. There's got to be passion, and then that's going to lead to performance. So hopefully I managed to stay within the allocated time. I'm going to stop sharing the screen. I'm going to get back into the room, and hopefully, I kind of accelerated the presentation a bit, but hopefully I managed to bring you some interesting concepts, and I look forward to answering any questions.
Yep. Uh, Mike, that was a brilliant, quick uh, course on how to keep on track and remain competitive for companies that are looking to survival in the future. Uh, I have a couple of questions, but before going to that, I would like to acknowledge that a couple of our past presidents, Mr. Suresh Matre and Dr. Kavita Lagate, are with us, and we thank them, and we would welcome them to come and give in their comments. We also have some current and past office bearers. We have Dr. Jagmohan Rishi with us, and we also have Mr. Indranil Ghosh, who has been part of our managing committee team, joining us today. So, thank you for being with us today. Coming back to Mike's presentation, I think it was a high-speed roller coaster on concepts ranging from how do you uh, look at a company in terms of succession to customer to company and competition. In fact, you had a few very contrarian viewpoints, if I may say so, because you feel, and I think that comes from your background of setting up and wanting to get a company into the board that's actually going to disrupt Amazon. So I think that's the spirit that is seen very, very strongly in your presentation. This one concept about ensuring that the CEO is always from outside, okay, is definitely one that challenges many multinationals that actually, believe in nurturing the succession uh, based on understanding cultural integrity in terms of the ability of that person to mold in, and also to be able to carry the values and those basic principles on which the company is set forward. So, this particular concept of yours, okay, is actually a disruptive concept. Would you agree that that's the, many companies would look at it as a huge risk to their uh, already set up succession, and it also would result in a lot of heartburn for people who have actually worked hard to build that company and bring it to a certain level and are looking forward to be able to gain positions that will help them, further the interest of their companies and their own interests. And if they are denied this opportunity, and if they know for sure that if this is the company's policy, then many of them would not give in their best and leave halfway. So how do you tackle that?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that. Of course, it's a bit of an unorthodox approach. It's not, and you may recall in one of the sentences I said, challenge management dogmas. These are embedded wallpaper beliefs, which are saying, oh, we got to do things this way. In my research, I've noticed that in general, people do prepare themselves to become, decision makers in organizations. But the moment they reach that level, then they start becoming they start to become a little bit of a despot. They start to behave in a bit of a very I don't know, despotical way, because they believe that they are entitled to that. They say, oh, I've been working for 30 years, now I can do whatever I want. And I don't like that, because nobody in the organization should behave like that. This sense of entitlement shouldn't be there, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done. The corporation, the company itself supersedes the needs of one person. May that person be even the CEO. So the reason for which I'm kind of advocating, I'm not saying this should be a general rule. I'm not saying 100% of the companies should bring people from outside, but as a you know, as a I don't know, maybe more often than not, maybe 60% or 70% of the time, I'm thinking when someone comes from outside, they come with a different perspective. They don't come with political baggages attached. They come with fresh views. They come without prejudices. They come, with different mindsets, and I think they would bring more value to the into the organization. Of course, don't get me wrong. What you're saying is 100% valid, and it makes a lot of sense. But I'm trying to challenge the dogmas. I'm trying to challenge the patterns that governed our way of thinking for last 100 years. So it's a little bit different, and or at least put some sort of a joint pair. Put some, of course, we want to have one decision maker in the end, but maybe you put some internal with one external, or maybe you put some sort of a committee which is going to come up with decisions in a collective manner. So I hope this kind of answers the question or the
Thanks.
statement.
Thanks for the explanation and the background. But I do agree with you that it's a challenge when it comes to handing over the company for succession, whether inside or outside, both ways, and to keep the prejudices apart.
मैं उसको खुद ही भी लिख रहा हूँ
Before we move further, may I invite
मैं उसको खुद ही लिख रहा हूँ I'm writing myself down. वो एक plumber भी तो
Mr. Gowde, would you like to mute your mic?
बाकी के sections भी I will write myself and give it. Dependency करने से बहुत खराब हो रहा है.
Thank you. Okay. May I invite Mr. Suresh Matre and Dr. Kavita Lagate to put in their comments and share with us their views on Mike's presentation today. Okay, I think they may have not near their system, but okay. So let's move on. I would like to okay. Kavita Lagate ma'am has a comment saying it's a great presentation. Oh, thank you. I think okay, fine. I would like to throw the floor open because we have another 25 minutes, so that any and every one of us can.
Professor Kim, there is some question. There's some question in the chat box. If you can just take.
Yeah, can I start with Rishi Mohan, Jagmohan, and then I can go to the question in the chat box and request the person to unmute and ask themselves.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Kiran, and great presentation, Mike. I will say it's a master class in just 1.5 hours on people management as well as on increasing productivity. In fact, yesterday only I was in one of the forums on CX, and I'm asking the same question to you also, that there is always a misalignment between customer expectation, the employee expectation, and the management expectation. So how do we balance that out? Although you have covered that aspect, but with respect to I'll not say an ideal organization, but the companies which have to become ideal, for those guys, what is your observation about it? And I wanted to start with the Sat Sri Akal to you, because you were talking about parathas and other things.
Well, that's a great question, and this issue of alignment, I think it starts with the organizational structure. First, I think we need to have the right people in the right place, the right people with the right mindset. And this comes through discussions. This comes through identifying people's strengths, people's weaknesses, making sure that we understand what sort of challenges, maybe even personal issues some of these people have. And of course, as an organization, many organizations don't take the time to truly understand and to communicate with the human beings in the company itself, because we have other priorities, right? Organizational goals, all sort of deliverables, quarterly results, and so on and so forth. But I think by having this and this is part of the human resources department of their preparedness, of their training, of their managing the leadership talent for the future. So I think it's about creating an environment, a milieu of open-minded communication, getting people to express their positives, their negatives, trying to do something. Don't just pay lip service. The point I'm trying to make is sometimes we pay lip service. Yeah. I hear you. But then we move around, we go into a different direction, and we forgot about Jasprit Singh, their problem. We forget about it because we have some other issues. Don't just pay lip service. Take notes. There is a very good Latin dictum which says verba volant, scripta manent. Verba volant, scripta manent means words fly, whatever is written stays. In other words, take notes. When someone tells you something, put it in writing, because you put it in writing is going to be there for you to go back and refer to that thing. So have these open-minded discussions. Try to understand, who fits in what position. Get people to be comfortable in what they're doing. Get people to maximize to understand how important each one of the people in the organization, how important each one of these people are in the grand scheme of the corporate structure. Because sometimes people think or feel like a little wheel in a huge mechanism, and they say, I'm not important. Everybody's important. I don't know if any one of you have ever, when you were kids, if you have ever took apart a watch and you take just one little wheel, see if that watch works anymore. It doesn't. Because every single wheel has a little role that plays in the organization. So we need to make sure that people in our companies, they understand that even though they're big or small, big wheels or small wheels, whatever they are important in the company. And then they become, as I said, the interface between our company and the customers. So that's what I feel would kind of lead to this, I would say, fine-tuning or improvement of the organizational performance. I hope it addresses your question. I'm not sure whether it does, but
yeah, definitely. Partly, it definitely had, because it's a very large subject, and you definitely addressed part of it. Of course, thank you very much. And as you rightly said, there's a lot of misalignment and mindset, which is very, very important. And at the leadership level, the growth mindset is very, very important.
thank you so much. I appreciate your question. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. I think you emphasize the importance of linkages that make the wheel turn. But I think we have Amber Khatri who has posed a question. Amber, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question? Thank you.
Uh, yes. First of all, thank you, Mike, for the wonderful discussion that we attended. My question is related to the workforce management, or you can say there are certain keywords which I could catch and relate my question to, like agility, the team agility, I would say. So the question is that in the recent past, I would say 1 or 2 years, we have been seeing a lot of resignations in the companies. So in this scenario, there are cases that the employee was very talented but still was not given the proper rewards or compensation, but or the other way around, that there were money minded employees that were changing the companies very often. So how do we tackle this situation as a manager? What should be the approach or thought process? Do we, yeah, I think on a broader sense.
Thank you for your question, Amber. I'm not sure if there is a silver bullet. If there's one solution that is gonna fit all. Every organization has their own organizational rigidities, their own structures. So I think the answer would be it depends. It depends on the type of organization that we have. It depends on organizational resources. It depends on goals. It depends on objectives. So I would not be able to kind of give you an answer which would solve all these issues in one silver bullet. I don't think there is that panacea that's going to cure all problems. But if we take a step back and we look at each and every one of our organizational frameworks, structures, we look at the problems. Why do people quit? Is it because their salaries are not being paid? Is it because they're getting paid by the competition more? Is it because they feel that their time is not well compensated? Is it what is it? Is it maybe a family issue? What are the problems? What are the challenges? And then we need to analyze those, and we need to try to find appropriate solutions. So hopefully you're going to forgive me for not coming up with a more like one integrated solution for the whole thing, because I don't think it exists. I think it's a case by case issue, and we need to look at what are the problems. But when we look at what are the problems, I think we need to be again open-minded and judge the problem not from our own perspective, but from their perspective. I have to tell you, I play a bit of a game. I have this wonderful, can I play a 30-second game, Dr. Yadav?
Sure. Go ahead.
I'm going to demonstrate to you how groupthink is changing lives. Okay. I'm going to ask you a question. What color is this card? Just ignore this thing, the overall color of the card.
Blue.
It's blue. Yeah.
Blue. Everybody's seeing blue. Are you sure? I'm talking, you don't have some sort of a vision impairment, or everybody's seeing blue, right? Well, let me tell you something. You're all wrong, because it's white. You see, I was looking at the same thing. You see it's white right now. Forget about this. You see it's white now.
Yes.
We were all looking at the same problem, but from two different perspectives. You were seeing your perspective, I was seeing my perspective. And interestingly enough, usually the truth is on neither one of the two sides, but somewhere on the edge. Usually the truth is on the edge. You see, if some judge was to say, what color is this card? And your life depends on it, you would say, truthfully, it's blue. But then you've lost your life, because you are seeing the thing from your perspective. The judge was looking at the same card, but from this side, which is white. So what I want you to think about is, how do you change, how do you shift the paradigm? How do you shift the paradigm from thinking from your perspective into thinking from someone else's perspective? How do you take things and you turn them inside out and upside down? And by the way, let me ask you this. If instead of this card, we had a Rubik's Cube, you know Rubik's Cube, the one of those things that you turn and Rubik's Cube. So now I have six people looking at six, or maybe even worse, six groups of people looking at the white face, the blue face, the red face, the yellow face, the whatever. Now, who's right and who's wrong? You tell me, who's right and who's wrong? This guy is saying, I see white. This guy is saying, I see blue. This guy is saying, I see red. Yeah. Who's right and who's wrong? Ambar.
Everybody is right. Nobody's wrong.
Entirely incorrect. Everybody's wrong. Why? Because nobody has a holistic perspective. Nobody sees everything. You understand? Only when you have a collaborative process, and when you have the open mind to say, oh, that guy is seeing red, and that guy is seeing white, and that guy is seeing yellow, and that guy is seeing blue. Well, wait a second. It means that we don't know what is this thing that we have to deal with. Nobody is right. Everybody's wrong. Nobody has a holistic perspective. Now, with this Rubik's Cube, it's easy because it's a thing that you can turn inside out and upside down, and you can figure out what it is. But in organizations, most of the issues are in people's minds. And for Ambar to understand what in Mike Ivanov's head and vice versa, it's almost impossible, because we're all a product of the sum of all our experiences in our lives. Each and every one of us here today have encountered all sort of different things, and yeah, so we have our own preconceived ideas. We have our own, no matter how open-minded you are, you still have, preconceived ideas, which are prejudices sometimes. And we need to get out of these prejudices. We need to never to take or not to take into consideration someone else's opinion simply because it diverges from ours. Someone says, "Oh, this is yellow." Wait a second, I'm seeing blue. You are seeing blue, and I'm saying no, no, no. Or as my friends in Punjab, they say, "Nay, nay, 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 nay." It's white because I'm looking at the same thing, and you are seeing blue, and I'm seeing white. So don't discard someone else's opinion simply because it's not aligned with yours. Understood. So have this open-minded kind of consideration to other people's opinion, and hopefully that's a great game that we played. I hope you like that game.
Yes, it was. And thank you for the answer. It was really, actually, I would call it a silver bullet, no, because that's the key in life and in professional life as well. So thanks for that. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Mike, I love your way of uh, bringing in perspective difference between the 6 and the 9 from which way you look at. I think that's a perfect way to make things. I think we have with us Mr. Indranil Ghosh, who I think wants to give in some inputs. Mr. Ghosh, would you like to unmute? And he's a former office bearer of VMA. uh, would you like to unmute and join us, sir? Okay. In the meanwhile, I think our president has his hand up. So over to you, sir.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Mike, for a very, very insightful and very practical, presentation. I was just wondering, when we are talking about building the 21st century corporate workforce, the biggest change which I am finding is, unlike when you and me, we were growing and in our early corporate life, uh, you know, we were not changing companies so fast. We joined some organizations and stayed with it. Today, whenever I am hiring people, I find in 5 years, at least the person has changed 3 companies. So, and, uh, how do you, in your view, how can we bring that alignment to the organization where the grounding, in our time, we were more important was that grounding has to be good and we stay with one company and learn there. But today that is not happening. How do we bring that loyalty, you call it, or you call it, cohesiveness in the team, or you call it attachment to the organization? That few tips, if you can give, because there are very young managers also in this group, it will be very helpful.
That's a wonderful question, Mr. Sharma. That's an excellent question. And honestly, this is the crux of organizational dilemmas today. How do we retain key employees? I mean, we don't want to retain everyone. There are people who are the bad apples, who are going to spoil the batch. We don't want to get rid of those. But those who are truly intrinsic in terms of their contribution to our future organization and our success, I think we want to retain them. And those would be people that we want to have meaningful and open discussions with. These would be people that we want to give them, maybe, as I said, we want to make them not just stakeholders, but maybe even shareholders. I mean, if these people, because ultimately, I gave you the example of Bini Bansal and Sachin Bansal, right? Ultimately, if Amazon was to say, hey, we give you some small percentage of a company which is worth $2 trillion, maybe both Bini and Sachin Bansal would have said, sure, right? I don't know, 1,000 shares, 100,000 shares, I don't know. Yeah, but that may have been something that may have prevented them from actually going across the street and opening Flipkart. So sometimes it's about that. But I think it boils down to meaningful discussions. It boils down to understanding, to listening to people's needs, to people's wants, to people's desires, to having these discussions and understanding, who they are. Now, we don't want this HR department to waste their time with absolutely every single employee, but those who have those high performance, high impact, positions, those should be people that we want to talk with. And again, in some instances, the results may be meaningful. In some instances, the results may be, the person may already have their mind made up. You mentioned something very, very truthful. Today, there is no more loyalty. There is no more commitment. Our generation, and I'm saying our generation, people over 50, 60, and so on and so forth, the corporate loyalty, the corporate commitment was the cornerstone of our entire career. Nowadays, you take a young kid, he's going to change maybe 20 to 25 different workplaces by the time he or she retires. There is no more loyalty. And then the question is, how do we sift? How do we filter through all these people who are going to come and go and find those diamonds? And remember, even when you find a diamond, it's not polished. We need to find a diamond, so we need to sift through a ton of dirt. We find the diamond, and then we have to work on polishing that diamond. We have to kind of, enhance it, make it beautiful. The Kohinoor, which, by the way, the Brits were very nice to take it away from you guys, right? When it was found, it was not polished. So the most beautiful stone in the world, gemstone, was not polished. So we need to find the diamonds, then we need to polish them, and then we need to prepare them for the future. I'm contradicting myself a little bit with what Dr. Yadav said about preparing people for the top positions, but in a sense, I hope what I said, it makes sense. And I'm not trying to generalize. Okay, every single company should bring someone from outside, but those who we prepare for for top positions, we need to treat them with a lot of respect. We need to engage them. We need to enable them. We need to empower them. And I think that's what's going to make a difference.
Thank you.
Hopefully it makes sense.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Mike. Sorry, I got disconnected for a short while, so now I'm on my mobile phone. But I think we have with us Mr. Gurdas Aras, who has a question. Would you like to unmute and ask that question?
Yeah, I'm here. Am I audible?
Yeah,
yes.
You are. Yeah. Wonderful presentation, Mike. I have a question with my experience. Many times, we observe that the top managements have a well-defined and well-developed vision for the company. However, they fail in transferring it to the last person in the organization. And therefore, we always many times see that the employees are not aligned to the management's vision, and therefore the organization fails to reach that goal. How do you handle this kind of situations, Mike?
Great question. I spoke earlier about two types of organizational structures. One is the traditional one, the pyramid one. The other one is the flat, the pancake, the paranta type organization. In the traditional organization, decisions are made very, very fast because they're made at the top and they're going to be implemented at the bottom. Decisions are made very fast, but implementation, it takes long. Why? Because people at the bottom have never been consulted. So there is a lot of resistance, a lot of reluctance in the organization to implement decisions which are coming from the top. They're saying, oh, that CEO, he or she, they don't even know what the problems are that we are confronting with. So decision-making, very, very fast, implementation, tremendously slow because of the resistance and reluctance. In the circular company, where there's a lot of consultative process, everybody gets their own input, everybody says this and that, and they contribute, decision-making is long, but when you reach some type of a consensus, implementation, it's a snap because everybody is on board with that. So what I'm saying is, no matter what type of organizational structure you have, engage everybody in the strategic decision-making processes. I'm not saying, if you need to allocate, 500 rupees, 500 rupees, to buy some paper today, you need to ask everybody in the organization, should I buy that paper for 500 rupees, 500 rupees? No. What I'm saying is decisions which are impacting the entire organization, long-term strategic decisions, that's where you want to have the input of most people, because they will feel that they were part of the process. And then they would feel more engaged, and they would feel more, they would buy in that process. And then I would say the resistance or the reluctance is going to be mitigated and minimized. I hope this kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah, great, great. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you so much.
Mike, I think we have last few minutes left. If there are no other questions, then I would like to do two things. I would like to acknowledge the fact that your agility and adaptability is coming out very strongly. You've even started thinking in Hindi, 500 rather than 500. which shows, which if no one else has a question, I have one particular comment that I would like to share with you. Think, if you look at the Indian culture and if you look at its philosophy and spirituality, which we commonly tend to learn from our gurus, it says, don't compare yourself with others. Try to be the better version of yourself every other day. Okay. Now, this, when I try to match with your philosophy of saying that the most important factor in my KYC is my competition, okay, not me or not my customer, but my competition. How would you, in practice, blend it with the Indian philosophy?
I think it's entirely aligned, because if you think about what I said. I said know your competition. I didn't say be your competition. I said know your competition so you can improve yourself, so you can better yourself to be better than the competition. Okay? I didn't say be the competition. I said know your competition. And then that's going to allow you to better yourself, to become a better version of yourself, to be more adaptive, to be more committed, to be more passionate, to outrun, to outperform, to do things better than the competition.
So you are saying that you are one of your best competitors that needs to be also looked at when you strategically plan for sustainability.
100%. And that leads each and every one of us on a path towards continuous improvement. That Kaizen concept, Kaizen, continuous improvement, that's the path that each and every one of us individually, as organizations, we need to be on. It doesn't matter how good we are today, tomorrow we can be better. As a human being, as a product, as a company, as whatever. So this constant continuous improvement, Kaizen, is I think it's one of the key tenets that should be driving every organization forward.
Right. Thank you so much for all the clarifications and explanations that you provided. A wonderful presentation. I think all of us did have some definite takeaways from there. Before I hand over to our president to uh, express his vote of thanks, I would like to advise all our members that please stay tuned in to the Wednesday Wisdom webinars and the Friday Fundamentals that try and bring to you excellent speakers from across the globe that share their valuable insights gained over a lot of exposure, experience, and research. I think, Mike, you wanted to say something before I hand it over to Mr. Rajesh Sharma. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you to you, Dr. Yadav, and also to Mr. Sharma for the opportunity. I truly cherish the opportunity. It's a pleasure. It's an honor for me to be part of this presentation. And I want to be a little bit selfish here. I want to say to everyone, please check out this site, globalbox.in or globalbox.world. And I can assure you that once you learn what this platform does, I can assure you that this platform is going to revolutionize the internet. It's going to kill Amazon and Flipkart. I know everybody's here is proud of Flipkart being a quasi-Indian company. They're actually registered in Singapore, but built by two Indian fellows. But globalbox.in or globalbox.world, check it out. And if you have friends or people who want to sell their products either internally in India or overseas, this becomes a wonderful conduit for them to reach customers locally, regionally, and globally at absolutely no cost for them. So it's a great platform. And forgive me for being taking this opportunity to do a bit of a self-promotion. Thank you so much, Dr. Yadav.
Mike, I unequivocally endorse that everybody should go to globalbox.world. I think it did bring in a lot of perspective and change my thinking in terms of what possibilities there are to be able to actually make transactions seamless. So thank you for bringing this up. And I'm sure all our members would want to explore for themselves. And it's a very simple process. It doesn't require much. All it wants is your location and nothing else. So thank you for bringing that up. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Kiran, for such a helpful, coordinator of the program. And thanks, Mike, for being so lucid, so practical, full of examples, I will say, and also very simple. The way you have presented it, and with the passion with which you have presented, that is very well appreciated. I thank you for taking out time for Bombay Management Association, where our motto is to bring together corporates, institutions, and students who are future managers to the platform and learn from the experiences of our eminent speakers who come on the platform from across the world. So thank you very much for taking out time. I thank our past presidents, Mr. Suresh Mhatre and Kavita ji, for joining our executive members, Jagmohan and Mr. Indranil Ghosh, who was earlier our executive member, and also all the participants for being on the program. I am sure all of you will take away some of the insights which are given by Mike in such a simple manner. So thank you very much, and we look forward to next sessions as well. And Mike, when you are here in India, we would love to meet you personally.
Thank you so much. I will be in India on August 1st. I'm going to be in Chandigarh for about a month, and it would be a great pleasure to come and see you in Mumbai. I love Mumbai, especially when it doesn't rain, when it's not raining right now. And by the way, all our prayers for people who are impacted negatively by these heavy rains in Mumbai. So all our prayers.
Very heavily in India, in Mumbai these days.
President sir, just to inform you, we may be blessed with Mike's present in the rains on 26th August in Mumbai.
Oh, wow. Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Mike, nice to see you there. It will be very nice to see you here. And, the way you have learned Indian language, that's very well appreciated. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
So, to everybody, thank you for being with us. Good night. Stay healthy, stay well, and see you soon. Mike, Sat Sri Akal, until we meet again.
धन्यवाद जी, बहुत
बहुत शुक्रिया.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.